Well, welcome back. It's Monday morning. It's time to find out what the situation is. Well, I'm going to tell you what. I had a dude come in my Discord, Max Maria, yesterday. And, he's... we're going to call him a conspiracy theorist, to put it lightly. You know what I'm saying? I think he fell into the rabbit hole and, he found a purple-eyed bunny on the bottom of that motherfucker and he done murdered him. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things tend to happen. But with that being said, this morning I was looking up for bank runs, right? Because I saw a video about bank runs in the U.S. and da-da-da-da-da. There's not enough cash. The FDIC's been out here making, videos. And I run into, apparently food banks are running out of money, or running out of food. And I think this might be a little bit on the hierarchy of needs thing. Individuals need food to survive. You know what I'm saying? Food, water, shelter, these type of things, long before money becomes a thing, right? Money gets you all these things. But since, we decided to shut down the economy and, all these services like unemployment and welfare that was supposed to be there ended up collapsing because the government can't do anything right. Well, we stood here and, now people need food because they're hungry. So I got a bunch of articles here, you know what I'm saying? I got this main one, which is going to be like the very beginning of it. And then I got like 4 more, which are just evidence. And then, I want to show you what, big corporations are trying to do to help. And then I'm going to tell you what you can do to help. You know what I'm saying? And what, all of us can do to help. I'm very fortunate to live in an area where we have a very, very strong food bank ability. We're in really good shape as far as things are concerned. We're not worried about food in any way, shape, or form. We're more worried about manpower to be able to deliver the food. You know what I'm saying? That's a bit of an issue. So, all right. Here's the article. This is from, I think, The Guardian. Perfect storm. U.S. facing hunger crisis as demand for food banks soars. Food banks are reporting unprecedented demand across U.S. as millions lose jobs, investigation shows. All right. This is from April 2nd. All these articles are from this week. Just so you know. Right? Actually, the John about who people are helping out, from today. The unprecedented number of Americans have resorted to food banks for emergency supplies since the coronavirus pandemic triggered widespread layoffs. The demand for food aid has increased as much as 8-fold in some areas, according to an investigation by The Guardian, which gives a nationwide snapshot of the hunger crisis facing the U.S. as millions become unemployed. About 1 in 3 people seeking groceries at not-for-profit pantries last month have never previously needed emergency food aid, according to interviews with a dozen providers across the country. The National Guard has been deployed to help food banks cope with rising demand in cities including Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Phoenix, among growing concerns that supplies may run low as the crisis evolves. Overstretched food pantries are switching to drive-thrus and home deliveries to minimize the spread of COVID. At least 300 million Americans are urged to stay at home. I've been in this business over 30 years and nothing compares to what we're seeing now. Yet, not even with the steel mills closed down do we see increased demand like this, said Sheila Christopher, the Hunger-Free Pennsylvania, which represents 18 food banks across 67 counties. Last year, 43 billion meals were distributed to more than 40 million Americans through a network of 200 food banks and 60,000 pantries, schools, soup kitchens, and shelters, according to Feeding America, the National Food Bank Network. The working poor, elderly, and disabled and infirmed accounted for the vast majority of food bank users. This week, The Guardian contracted food banks and pantries in 9 states, which all reported unprecedented demand, plummeting donations from retailers, and a fall in personnel due to the coronavirus. All right, so with Americans, how we get our food, it's very simple. We produce enough food, right, and a little bit of excess that we tend to need every month, you know what I'm saying, or in a week, every quarter, whatever the case might be. Whatever the shipping schedule is, the growing schedule is for that particular food, such as eggs, bread, milk, cereal, whatever, canned goods, however they are supplied. Well, the issue is that individuals went out and stocked up. Like, my girl came over yesterday. She told me, she said, oh yeah, my mom, this lady just came over and gave us 15 dozen eggs. And I'm like, why would you have 15 dozen eggs? You know what I'm saying? Like, legit. That's ridiculous. Because they're going to go bad before you use them. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Right? Like, and this is the problem, is that people are buying stuff that don't keep. And You can't buy enough butter. You know what I'm saying? You can't buy enough bread. You can't buy enough eggs. You can't buy enough milk. And because it doesn't keep, you can't use it long term. You know what I mean? It's stuff that, like, yeah, you can freeze butter, but you can't freeze eggs. You can't freeze milk. You can freeze your bread, you know, but how much bread can you really store in your freezer? Even if you have a deep freezer, like, you can store a bunch of bread, but you're going to need, you know what I mean, room for meat and potatoes and whatever, meat and, you know, vegetables and whatever else and canned goods, you know what I mean, or the canning supplies, whatever it is that you're going to need, you know what I mean? So people are stocking up, which is causing food banks to end up losing out on that excess food that grocery stores usually donate to them. In Amherst, home to the University of Massachusetts' largest campus, the pantry distributed 849% more food in March compared with the previous year. The second largest increase in Western Massachusetts was 748% at the Pittsfield Salvation Army Pantry. The Grace Klein Community Food Pantry in Jefferson County, which is the largest number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Alabama, provided 5,076 individuals with food boxes last week, a 90% increase in the previous week. In southern Arizona, demand has doubled, with pantry supplying groceries to more than 4,000 households every day, double the number supplied in March 2019. We saw an increase during the federal government shutdown, but nothing as rapid or massive as overwhelming as this, said Michael McDonald, CEO of the Community Food Bank of South Arizona. A helpline set up by the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank has received more than 1,000 calls in the past 2 weeks, 90% of which came from the newly unemployed people here. Pantries ordered 50 to 60% more food for March and April than usual. The Lakeview Pantry in Chicago is on track to provide food for as many as 2,000 individuals this week, compared with the 1,100 before the coronavirus crisis. The North Florida Food Bank, which relied heavily on contributions from retailers, have seen donations drop by 85% to 90% as shoppers bulk buy, leaving shelves empty. But donations from restaurants, golf tournaments, and even Disney World have increased. So the food bank is switching to ready meals, paying furloughed chefs to cook for thousands of senior citizens in housing facilities. In Las Vegas, the three square food bank has increased weekly food distribution by 30% from 1 million to 1.3 million pounds of food. New drive-through distribution centers have been set up across the valley as 170 of its 180 distribution outlets have forced to temporarily close due to CDC social distancing guidelines. Every line at every distribution center exceeds the amount of food in our trucks, said Chief Operating Officer Larry Scott. The Kansas City-based Harvesters Food Bank, which serves 16 counties in northeast Kansas and 10 in northwest Missouri, sent out 12,000 boxes to pantries on Monday, 23rd of March, of 140% rise in the 5,000 boxes typically ordered. It was the largest distribution day in our 40-year history, said it's a communications manager, Gene Halliman. The snapshot is representative of the national picture, according to Feeding America. This is a perfect storm packing food banking as we know it, said a spokeswoman, Zuani Zerla-Feel. Yeah, you see, like, got this stuff here. On Tuesday, Cleveland Police and Ohio National Guard helped load boxes of groceries into cars at new drive-through pickup services located in the huge downtown municipal car park. At least 2,765 families were provided with a week's groceries, 36% of them first-timers. Compared with 1,500 at a similar event last week. When the queue stretched across almost 3 miles, a cab driver, single mother who worked in hospitality and freelance photography, that's not a job, were among those requesting help for the first time. The Rust Belt states are among the hardest hit by coronavirus economic crisis. More than 187,000 Ohioans filed for unemployment benefits during the third week of March, when businesses were closed by the governor, an extraordinary increase of 7,046 claims filed the previous week, according to the Department of Labor. The Greater Cleveland Food Bank received 800 calls to its helpline during one day last week, 8 times the usual number. I've never seen anything like it in the 20 years of service. We're seeing people from every socioeconomic level because the majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, said the food bank CEO, Kristen Warzaka. Half of American adults have either no emergency savings or not enough to cover 3 months of living expenses. Demand tripled. There is a similar dramatic strain in Phoenix, Arizona, where 1,500 people queued up for food boxes at St. Mary's main office, compared with the 450 just 2 weeks ago. Here, the National Guard is also pitching in at makeshift drive-through centers as volunteer numbers have plummeted from 250 a day to less than 50, as the vast majority are senior citizens advised to stay at home and minimize the risk of COVID-19. In total, St. Mary's, the oldest known food bank in the world, supplies 700 pantries, shelters, churches, and social service centers in 7 counties where 1 in 5 children struggle with hunger. First, we saw people who lived paycheck to paycheck, got laid off, and didn't know where the next meal was coming from, followed up by those that a couple weeks of saving. Now people who knew about us because they donated or volunteered are coming in for food, said Jerry Brown, media spokesman to St. Mary. The 2008 recession didn't touch this. It's a different ballgame. Before the coronavirus pandemic, about 37 million, or 1 in 8 Americans, could not always access enough nutritional food to lead healthy, active lives. Food insecurity forces families to make trade-offs between basic needs such as housing, medical bills, and food, and many do not qualify for federal nutrition programs. The government rescue package includes some measures to help alleviate food insecurity, such as expanding eligibility for food stamps, increasing commodity donations from the Department of Agriculture, and providing $1,200 to every American earning under $100,000 a year. But experts warn that help has been slow, patchy, and inadequate so far. Philanthropy and not-for-profits are going to be able to meet food demands. The government needs to step in, or are not going to be able to meet food demands. The government needs to step in, said Kelly O'Connell, chief executive of the Lakeview Pantry in Chicago. Caitlin Welch, director of the Global Food Security at Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, said the supply chain is strong, but as the number of food insecure people increases continuously, we'll perhaps need a new wave of federal legislation directly, specifically at household food security. These numbers show the pandemic is causing economic shocks never experienced in our lifetime. Yo, yeah, so... Anyway, you know what I mean, like, yo, so I wanted to, you know what I mean, stand here and put this up. I wanted to show you, like, you know what I mean, it's not just, you know what I mean, like, one article, right? Like, these are a bunch of articles that I found, you know what I mean, going through stuff. All right. Area's biggest food bank would run out of food without relief, right? This is from, where are we at? Man, listen, I hate these stupid fucking ads. You know what I mean, real shit. What? Yo. See? Ad blocked. Good stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it's good that people know, like, you know, you want to stand here and read your stuff, you know what I mean? Get it out here, have people understand that you have a actual newspaper, because nobody knows who you are. But by all means, let's keep putting your stuff behind a fucking paywall. Some food pantries report demand up to 50% or more as people lose jobs and paycheck, limited supplies, and shrinking volunteer hampering logistics. This is in Maine. This one here, shoot, interact, right? This one here is out of Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh Food Bank president worries about supply running out, right? Like they said they had 1.5 miles of cars in Pittsburgh. Now, good news, okay? Like, you know, I mean, I know everybody like hates corporations, right? Like, you know what I mean? Because apparently we're all a bunch of communists at this point. But Jeff Bezos is donating $100 million to U.S. food banks to help them feed a growing number of out-of-work Americans who are losing their jobs during the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The Amazon CEO donated to Feeding America, a Chicago-based nonprofit, more than 200 food banks across the United States. Bezos posted an Instagram photo of a food bank captioning, "Even in ordinary times, food insecurity in American households is an important problem. And unfortunately, COVID-19 is amplifying that stress." He noted that restaurants are closed and many churches that provide free meals are closed too because of social distancing mandates. You know, the donation, the largest single gift in our history, will enable us to provide more food to millions of our neighbors facing hardship during this crisis, said Claire Babineau, Foxtrot CEO of Feeding America, in a statement. Bezos added a link to Feeding America in his Instagram bio, saying, "If you want help, the organization is open to donations of any size." This isn't the first time Bezos has donated to coronavirus relief effort. March 23rd, he was one of dozens of donors that contribute to All in Seattle coalition that funds charitable causes, including food security and housing. The coalition raised over $27 million, but wouldn't disclose to CNN how much Bezos gave. Well, good for him. You know what I mean? People on social media have called Bezos to donate some of his wealth to help Amazon workers. Oh my God. Like, yo, dude, they make decent money. Like, they make $16, $17 an hour. Like, legit. Like, they're always advertising like $17, $18, $19 an hour, depending on what you're doing over there. Like, legit, it's not like they're not getting paid a decent wage. Like, get the fuck out of here. Especially for order selectors. That's good money for an order selector. You know what I mean? Especially considering the fact you're not, like, picking cases in a grocery warehouse. You know, which is a whole different animal altogether. And you're legit destroying your body doing that. I used to do that when I was younger. But to confuse and angered people, the funds page allows for public donations. Amazon later amended the website to say, we aren't expecting anyone to do so. You can make a voluntary donation to the fund if you desire to do so. Amazon noted that it was required to solicit public donations to set up the relief fund. The structure to operate a fund like this, which hundreds of companies do through the same third party, requires the program to be open to public contribution, but we are not soliciting those contributions in any way. Amazon told CNN Business in a statement March 24th. In February, the tech billionaire pledged $10 billion to fight climate change after Amazon employees pressured him and the company publicly. So, you know, I don't really care about the climate change, but he did give $100 million, you know what I'm saying, to food banks to help feed Americans in this hard time. And I'd like to say thank you, sir, for doing so. It's appreciated. You know, I mean, you always want to tip your hat to individuals doing the right thing. But yeah, like, you know, I mean, there's a problem, you know, I mean, in food banks today in America, you know what I'm saying? Because individuals aren't standing here having enough food to eat because of the fact that we shut down the economy. And again, I say, was this all really worth it in the end of the day? You know what I mean? Like, really think, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to have, I told y'all, for every 1% unemployment goes down, or unemployment goes up, right? For every 1%, 20,000 people die. This is how. Legit. Y'all don't understand. All right? Legitimately, y'all don't understand it. This is... Yo, look. Is it worth risking our entire society and bringing us into a Great Depression, which is going to bring among us more socialism, to save the elderly of this country? Right? And I'm not saying like you kill them flat out, but I am saying like, yo, you don't have to save them. That's kind of my mentality. Like, and this is the problem. Like, yo, I don't think it's worth it. I just don't think the payoff's worth it when it comes down to it. I don't think it's enough people that you're saving versus the amount of people you're going to put in, the amount of human beings that you're going to destroy. Like, because it's not just us, it's the rest of the world too. Like, with us, with these food problems, and like, yo, with our economy shut down and supply lines cut off, billions of people are going to be affected by this because we want to save a few million. You know what I mean? Like, yo, and they're only going to live another 10, 15 years anyway. I don't understand the point. You know what I mean? Me personally, I don't get it. You know what I mean? When it comes down to it. Like, is it really worth this? Well, we're doing it. So, you know what I mean? Apparently, you know what I mean? The fucking voting base is that goddamn important to these fucking politicians. Anyway, man, yo, look, I'm Tom Pease of Pnoid News. You know how to runs. Like, share, and subscribe. Please donate, you know what I mean, if you can, volunteer your time if you can, you know what I'm saying, help us get through this time. You know what I mean, here's what it is. Peace.